In 1972, the CIA opened a program they called Stargate. Over the next 22 years, they spent an estimated $20 million studying something they called remote viewing. Remote viewing is the idea that a trained person can perceive information about a location, object, or event that they have no physical access to. In other words, they can see things at a great distance. This program operated at Stanford Research Institute. The physicists who ran it were named Russell Targ and Hal Puthoff. Both had PhDs, both had security clearances. The program was shut down in 1995, the official reason being not enough evidence of operational value. But here's what they don't put on the press release. The same year, the American Institutes for Research published an independent review of the program's data. The reviewer, a statistician named Jessica Utts, concluded that the effect was real. See, Stargate didn't start with the CIA. It started with a private researcher named Ingo Swann. In 1972, Swann demonstrated something very unusual in a controlled lab setting at the American Society for Psychical Research in New York. He could reportedly describe the contents of sealed containers and identify objects hidden from his view at rates that the researchers couldn't explain by chance. Then the CIA heard about it. They sent two physicists from Stanford to New York to test Swann. What they reported back prompted the agency to fund a formal program. At Stanford, Targ and Puthoff ran what they called remote viewing experiments with multiple subjects. The setup was careful. Targets were chosen randomly. The judges didn't know which target was which, and the statistics were tracked closely. Their results were published, not in a fringe newsletter, but in the premier scientific journal Nature in 1974. Nature's editors added a cautionary note, but they published it. This 1995 evaluation is the key document. Jessica Utts was a statistician at UC Davis. She had no prior stake in the outcome. She reviewed the full body of Stanford and later Fort Meade data. Her conclusion was that the effect was consistent, statistically significant, and larger than effects seen in many accepted areas of psychology research. Her co-evaluator, Ray Hyman of the University of Oregon, a well-known skeptic, confirmed the statistical result was real. He disagreed on what it meant, but he didn't deny the numbers. Hyman's position was that we need more controlled tests. Utts' position was that it's already been tested repeatedly and the results are consistent. The report is publicly available. The CIA made most of the Stargate files public through Freedom of Information Act requests starting in 1995. They're available at the National Archives and through the CIA's online reading room. One well-documented case, in 1973, a former police commissioner named Pat Price reportedly described a classified Soviet research facility in detail, accurate enough that CIA analysts confirmed the match. The details of that case are in the declassified files. Now, the official reason that Stargate was shut down was, quote, insufficient operational value. But the program's own analysts dispute that framing. Several of them wrote internal memos arguing that the data warranted continued study. Those memos are also in the declassified files. What actually happened looks more bureaucratic than sinister, at least on the surface. The program moved through multiple agencies, CIA, then DIA, then the Army, and each handoff brought new leadership who hadn't read the history and had no reason to support it. When a new CIA project manager reviewed Stargate in 1995, he concluded that even if the statistical results were real, he couldn't use remote viewing reliably for actionable intelligence. He shut the program down. The public announcement was written as a definitive debunking. It wasn't. The AIR report explicitly did not say the effect was zero. It said operational application was unproven. There's a difference between we couldn't use it and it doesn't exist. That difference got lost in the press coverage. The academic study of what's called anomalous cognition, that's the careful, unglamorous term for what Stargate was studying, did not stop when the CIA stopped paying for it. In Princeton, the PEAR lab, Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research, ran experiments on mind and matter from 1979 to 2007. Small but consistent effects were observed over nearly 3 decades of data collection. At the University of Virginia, the Division of Perceptual Studies still publishes peer-reviewed research on consciousness and anomalous phenomena. It's part of the university. It produces academic papers. And there's a separate body of research, completely mainstream, on what brain states are linked to peak performance, creative insight, and what athletes call flow. Theta waves, that is brain waves at 4 to 8 cycles per second, are associated with the half-awake, half-asleep state just before you fully drift off. Researchers call this the hypnagogic state. Studies show it's linked to enhanced creative thinking and unusual mental associations. Thomas Edison was known for napping in a chair, holding a steel ball in his hands. When he drifted off and the ball dropped, the sound woke him. He called this practice his way of catching his best ideas. Now here's what I want you to consider. The U.S. government spent $20 million in 22 years studying whether human consciousness can access information in ways that we don't have a model for. The statistical answer from their own independent review was yes. And the response was, shut it down and tell the press it didn't work. Why? Was it genuine skepticism from people who hadn't read the data? Was it the discomfort of funding something that doesn't fit the mainstream model? Was it that a capability that you can't reliably weaponize is a capability with no budget line? I don't know. But what I do know is that the theta wave state, the one that shows up in every story I just told you, is real, measurable, and something that researchers think can be accessed with the right kind of audio. There's a free presentation on that topic that's well worth your time. You're not going to find it on YouTube, but I'll put a link to it in the description below. You can check it out if it's still available. The CIA didn't close Stargate because the effect was zero. They closed it because they couldn't use it reliably. There's a big difference between we couldn't use it and it doesn't exist. The data is still in the National Archives, the reviewers still disagree, and the brain state at the center of all of it is still there every night, right between waking and sleep. If you'd like to learn more shocking science that's been buried by the modern scientific establishment, hit the subscribe button and I'll see you in the next one.